Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George,
and Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
And we continue our coverage of The Heroes, Joe's second standalone and the next First Law entry. We cover the Better Part of Valor, Paths of Glory, The Day's Work, and The Defeated. So let's get started. And as usual, folks, you just know, we have to thank you continuously for your support. We will not give up on shouting you all out.
We know the only reason you watch is for the validation of us saying thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen to us, but
Listen
yes.
to it. Oh, sorry, dude.
God damn it. That's the second mistake, Adeptus. God damn it. Second mistake in 10 minutes. What's going on here?
The other one wasn't recorded. Doesn't count.
Oh, you're right. But, yes, please make sure to follow us on our social medias and our YouTube page. By the time this episode gets released, you'll might have seen that our YouTube page might have updated with all our episodes if we found out a little shortcut. So
actually, George always knew about the shortcut, but he was ignored.
George wasn't ignored. He said something to me, and I
just
promptly
like
forgot.
salt. Everybody, just like the salt. Everybody ignore the warnings. He said that bias is bad, and everyone ignored him.
Very, very true. And so if you've noticed, by this time this episode releases, we did not release one last week. We just needed to take a break. And so we hope you can understand, forgive us, and just accept it and move on. All right? So with that, we have returned to regularly scheduled programming, as the British say scheduled, right? Scheduled. And we start off with our first chapter read-through. George, you want to say something real quick?
I thought everybody said scheduled.
No, I thought the British said scheduled.
No, we say scheduled. What do you say?
No, it's scheduled. It is scheduled.
Where did schedule come from then?
I don't know. I watched like a British show once, and I thought like maybe a Welsh person said it scheduled, or maybe schedule. I don't know.
I need to look it up now. I don't know.
Look it up while I start this chapter read through. All right. Should I wait for Harrison actually, or should I just go?
It's up to you, man. You're editing.
That's true. You know, let me wait, because if Harrison interrupts me like later on, because he just came in, I'm gonna slap him through the computer screen. I'm joking.
Apparently, yeah, English people do say schedule. I've never heard anybody say it like that.
What British people would say that?
I don't know. I've just seen like this post of people arguing and saying, some people saying the English pronunciation is schedule and the American English is schedule. There was one like that earlier when, in a couple of episodes ago, where me and Harrison obviously say lieutenant and you say lieutenant, even though it's the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know Harrison actually says lieutenant in real life, but he said lieutenant because you said it.
Because that's how he says it in the book as well.
It's lieutenant. There is no F. There is no F.
It's a French word, and that's how they say it.
Yeah, but are we French? Are we speaking the French? No. We're not reading the French version of the word. We're reading the anglicized version of the word, English, right? So therefore, we say lieutenant. Say the first part of that word.
Lieutenant.
No. That's an actual word. Lieu. What's that? Say that. Say it. Say it. Say it.
It's pronounced
Lou. In lieu of things, right? So, lieutenant.
It's actually because of a misunderstanding. They mistranslated it to that rather than the original word, which was pronounced the way that we say it. And for some reason, they kept the spelling and pronunciation different.
Oh, I see. So you still win, huh, George? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, you guys do it the right way, the common sense way, you know.
That's right.
The Brits, you have a weird love-hate relationship with the French. I'll say that, man. I'll say that. You guys claim to hate them. Their words, man, they be Frenchy.
Yeah, I bet you still like fucking croissants, don't you? And coffee, you scumbag.
Say croissant.
What song?
I'm done with you. I'm done with you. I'm done with you. Anyway, we're starting off with first chapter read through, the better part of Valor. So we start off this one with the perspective of our boy Calder, who seems to be a reformed man. Not really, but he seems to be one of our protagonists that we are going to be like cheering for, maybe. Anyway, so he rides up to the old bridge, right, where him and his brother Scale are supposed to take it, if you remember. And I like that by the time he arrived, the fighting was already over. Seemed like he timed that, pretty perfectly for himself. And so, he gets there. And he sees that I guess it wasn't much of a difficulty for Scales' men to take him,
Yeah.
to take over the old bridge from the Union.
Well, just like with up on the hill, they were probably scattered and not organized at all. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they probably weren't organized. They were caught off guard, right?
Yeah.
And then, so Calder gets there. He sees Pale as Snow just chilling, sitting on a rock. And then he goes, I like how Pale Snow kind of like it's not confronting him because, the Northmen, they're just all about being very direct.
Yeah.
But he goes, you took your time getting here. And then Calder tries to bullshit him. You're like, yeah, I think my horse might be lame.
So dumb.
And then he goes, yeah, he's like, yeah, sure, right. He goes, look, your brother was right about one thing. Northmen won't follow a man that's reckoned a coward. And then, Calder goes, well, what's that to me? And Pale Snow, he goes, oh, nothing. No, nothing. You're everyone's hero. So anyway, so then the attention is turned onto Scale because White Eye Hanzo is arguing with Scale, trying to calm him down, though.
And White Eye Hansel's the gentleman who can speak the Union and went down with
Fenris the
Fear to the Union. So
emissary for the North.
Yeah, yes. I like White Eye Hansel. I wish we got to know more about him, but we don't really. So.
Yeah, true. And so apparently, it seems like from what Calder can ascertain, is that Scale wants to keep pushing forward past the old bridge, and White Eye's like, "Hey, man, chill out, bro, chill out." And then, Pale Snow asks Calder, if he could be the voice of reason with Scale, and so he's like, "All right." And then Calder swaggers forward, and he's like, "Hey, Pinhead, oi, fuck it," Well, I mean, that's
he gives him the old British slander.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The old East Londoner kind of thing, right?
This is how British people show affection for each other. They vapidly insult each other until they start to listen.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so, George, if you want to take this part of when Calder's insulting him, but as he calls it, he says, "Hey, Pinhead," everyone looks around like, "Uh-oh." And then Scale looks at Calder, and then I guess Calder,
Yeah, well, I do like the fact that, again, probably my favourite accents of these books because they're very Welsh, Calder and Scale. You're like, good old stupid Scale, great fighter, but nothing but shit in his head.
That's perfect, George. That's exactly like it.
Well, I love it because obviously Scale's just he's just smart enough to realise that Calder's the people up on the hill are taking the piss out of him because they could just let him go, and just see if he gets killed, and they're all just waiting for him to get killed because nobody likes Calder and Scale.
Right.
And I just want to point out again, there's lots of Shakespeare titles in these for the chapters in this book. Obviously, the Better Part of Valour is Henry IV, and the Better Part of Valour is discretion. So, you should to get stuck in and when not to. That's the best way that you can be helpful and be brave, is not to throw your life away needlessly.
Yeah.
So that fits in very well.
Yeah, well, that's where Calder comes in, right? And then he goes, he tells Scale to, like, why don't you prove everybody right that, that they, those that think that you're an idiot, and go ahead and ride on over that bridge. And Scale is he's hot, right? He's got his blood boiling. He's like, we could get over that bridge and into Adwine, get aside the Uffrith Road, cut those Union bastards off at the roots, get in behind them. And, I guess Calder, he kind of realized once he got Scale talking instead of, like, moving, Calder's already got him. right?
Yep.
And then he goes, yeah, side the Oathworth Road might be half the Union Army coming up already. Listen, no offense to the valor of our father's proud men here, but are you really going to take on countless thousands with this lot? And then he goes, Scales just kind of goes, motherfucker. He just kind of gives up, but angrily, like a petulant child. And then, Calder, he tells him, he's like, look, we were told to take the bridge. We took the bridge. And if the Union want it back, they can cross over here and fight us for it on our ground, and we'll be waiting for them. Ready, rested, dug in, close to supplies. He goes, listen, if Blackdown doesn't kill the pair of us through pure meanness, you'll more than likely do it through pure rashness. And then Scale kind of takes a long second, and he relaxes. Right, doesn't look happy, but he's not like losing his mind, and he accepts it and goes, I swear, sometimes talking to you is like talking to our father. And Calder goes, well, thank you. He knew it wasn't meant as a compliment, but he's going to take it as one anyway because one of their father's sons had to keep his temper. And that's the end of that chapter. Very short chapter. Boys, what are your thoughts? What's your rating?
Harrison?
I like that they have that they show the connection here between these two. For more than just them. Oh, we're brothers. Like Joe is always good at the show not tell. And this is a good example of that, of what their kind of dynamic is. Calder's the cool, calm, collected one. Who is, got the mindset of his father, but he's also completely lacks in practicality and
coward,
and he's a coward. And Scale is he's more practical, but he's completely hot-headed and doesn't know how to he's not very smart. Let's just be real. so but together they actually are I would say about 75% of what their dad it was. So I think I'd rate this one a 5 out of 9. I think it's a pretty average little chapter. It's just fine for those reasons. So,
I mean, Joe is shifting towards shorter chapters and just catching up a little bit with these characters, and then with these characters, because obviously the time scales are a lot more compressed. So you can't exactly just have a long chapter for every chapter, because it would throw it all out of whack. I think I'm going to give it a 4 just because it is shorter, and I like to see these two and Paler Snow and all the other of their men kind of bouncing off each other, and it is interesting. Mm-hmm. And I do like I love the fact that he calls Tao's meeting little wank parties, which is hilarious.
It is really funny.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 3 out of 9 figures because it's just so short. It's cool. What I notice is that now Joe is showing us the aftermath of the battle. So we need to kind of see all these little these points of contact of the people that have suffered or have become victorious now at this point after casualties.
Yep.
And so this is the first chapter of that kind of effect. And so just gonna breeze right through it. So 3 out of 9 fingers. And so we'll move on to our next segment, which is our community interaction segment. Now, before we, talk about memeing every chapter, which is what we're going to be talking about, we do want to point out that a gentleman by the name of Mikey Nedlook or whatever, right?
It could be Netuk, or it could be Net UK. I don't know.
Oh, Net UK. You asked about how to join the Discord, and George did respond to you, but I don't know if you could see it. But you just have to request him on Discord.
Mm-hmm. My name on Discord is just Rosak, spelled ROSAK. If you search that, there's a picture of a goldfish. That's me. I'm fully expecting to get maybe even dozens of requests now.
Ooh, dozens. Yeah, so go ahead and join there. We, and it's just a nice little gang of people that like to shoot the shit. We're pretty, friendly. And we treat you like the people you are. You have lives and feelings. You're important.
You have a voice.
Yeah, that you do. So, yeah. So, Mikey and everybody else, just remember to join the Discord is request Rosak, and he shall set you to the promised land.
And you even get your own little special First Law themed handle if you want one.
Yeah, yeah. Can't take anything on the close council just yet unless you work your way up the ranks, politically assassinate your rivals. Then hell yeah, baby, work your way up through the court. But yeah, the memeing every chapter. George, you want to take this?
Yeah. So as usual, make sure you get on House of the Meme Makers memeing every chapter for the heroes. It's going well this time. Obviously, there aren't as many people this time making memes, which is fair enough. People are busy, people have lives. There hasn't been a major release on the first Law Front for a very long time, so don't blame me.
Yeah.
It's mostly the Bloody Niner. I'm not gonna lie. Every other one is him, and then every now and again there's somebody else making a completely different meme, so that's great too. But
he is
folks,
carrying. Much respect.
Well, we need, folks, get in there. I mean, that's not us, but we're sponsoring it, I guess you could say. I don't know.
Is that what we're
get
doing?
up in there. I don't know. We're shouting it out. It's, we're shouting it out as best as we can since we're not allowed on Reddit anymore.
Although I will be, I've sent a few out to some random people to post for me, so I'm not going to mention them, but
yeah, we're not.
Dangerous.
Co-conspirators, get them too. No. All right. Well, yes. So, folks, hit up Rossack on Discord to get the invite to our guest Discord, and please join the Memeing Every Chapter, the Heroes Edition, run by Sir Spaceman on the subreddit of House of the Meme Maker. Okay?
And alternative as well. If you want to not add somebody directly on Discord, you can email us as always.
Yeah.
Circle of the World Podcast at gmail.com.
Don't forget that, folks. All right, so we'll move right on to our second chapter read through. This is a good one. This is Paths of Glory, and we are dropped into the perspective of our boy Corporal Tunney. And they are struggling through that bog that they were so unfortunately told to leave their horses behind and go, trekking through. And he is not happy. He's like, he's not knee deep, but because he's sticking to the grassy bits, what little grass there is, but it's still it's rough going.
I love the little mention of the guide there. Like, it's always something stupid. Like, yeah, just stick to the bits that aren't deep mud. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You look around, there aren't any, and it's like, oh. Clearly, the person who wrote this guide has no idea what they're fucking talking about.
It's also like the most obvious thing ever, right? Like, go through a bog, just don't step on the boggy bits,
Like that. It's like that person who's read the Art of War, and it's just. Yeah, just attack your enemy where they're weak and not where they're strong. Oh, okay.
Okay, gotcha. Didn't fluff it up. Gotcha.
Tactics.
and I like the consistent characterization. So like Worth, one of the recruits, he had asked Corporal Tunney, he's like, which way? And then the characterization is like doubled up around his guts. And that's when Tunney says, stick to the grassy bits, the guide said. And he goes, fuck. And then he goes, have you got a rope? He asked Yolk, and Yolk was like, left him with the horses, Corporal. And he's like, of course we bloody did. Johnny is just tight. He's upset. And then, he's about to he's not had it, but he's sick of this shit. His boot is in cold water. And then somebody from behind goes, my boot. And Tunney's like, what the fuck? He's like, shut the fuck up. They're going to keep, the Northmen will hear us. But it was Clegg, and he wasn't listening. He had strayed well away from the rushes and left one of his boots behind, sucked off by the bog. So he's waiting out to go get his boot, I guess, away from the grassy bits. And he's sliding in up to his thighs. Yolk is kind of laughing at him a little bit, and then Tunney kind of snaps, and he's rushing towards back Clegg, and he goes, "Leave it, you fool, leave it!" But Clegg is like, "Oh, I got it, haha!" And then he goes, "Whoa!" And then I guess he lost his footing a little bit, and then next thing you know, he's up in it, he's into his waist of the bog of that black muddy quicksand-esque, kind of scenario, right?
And there's no way of knowing how deep that shit is.
Right.
It could be like a couple of inches, or it could be like 10 feet deep. You don't know.
And then, like, Yolk laughed again, then kind of stopped and was like, uh-oh. And so then Leader Ligon's like, who's got a rope? Somebody get a rope. And he's holding a piece of a tree while stretching out to try to grab Clyde's hand. And, he's telling him to take his hand, but Clyde is panicking. And he's thrashing around, so he's only working himself deeper and deeper. And apparently he went down with shocking speed to the point where now it's just his face that's tipped back only just above the level of the muck with a big black leaf on one cheek. And he's like asking to help. He's reaching out for Leader Ligon's hands as best as he can. And Tunney is like getting kind of close, and he's able to shove the flagstaff towards him. But Klieg is like, help. And then right before his eyes went under the mud, he just stared at Tunney. And then that's it. And then he's just gone. He's just gone.
Yeah, goodbye, Klieg.
It's just crazy because like it's a bog and it can't be that deep, right? I mean, you say you don't know how deep it could be, but you would think like just shove the stick in there. He's got to like feel it and then just yank his ass out. But no, I guess that's not how bogs work.
Well, the problem is then if you try and get close to try and pull them out, you end up in the same situation.
Yeah.
And then the guy behind you ends up in the same situation.
The bog consumes all.
But just tie a rope around yourself and
but they set it up earlier. They didn't have any rope. You left it with the horse.
That's right. Yeah. You're right. All right. Look at that.
The logistics get you again.
Smart.
I do remember being surprised here too, though, that Tunney was like, "Oh shit!" Yeah, like he's so indifferent. You would have thought that he would have been like, the bog got him. Don't even worry about him. He's like screaming in the background.
I haven't thought about
but
this.
He does try to save him.
Yeah, he does try to save him, and I don't buy the reason later on. I don't buy it. Anyway, well, Clyde, rest in peace. He's out. He done. Bye.
I love how all the other boys are like traumatized.
Yeah, they struggle the rest of the way in silence. They're all like freaked out, and Tunney is just like he's tight. He's upset, right? And then finally they get to, I guess they get to like where the ground starts to rise. And they actually, the trees turn from like twisted stumps and stuff or swamp monsters to, regular oaks and firs. And so his magnificent boots were ruined, apparently. And he's just tight. He's yelling out. Yolk, he sat down and he's just staring into nowhere with his hands are trembling. Leader Ligon had licked his lips and is breathing hard. Worth was nowhere to be seen, though Tunney thought he could hear someone groaning in the undergrowth. Even the drowning of a comrade couldn't delay the working of that lad's troublesome bowels. If anything, it had made them accelerate.
Joe's wording with this group is so funny. It's awesome.
So good. Oh my god. And then Sergeant Forrest comes up, right? And he's all caked up too and everything.
Oh, he's caked up? You saying that Sergeant Forrest has a fat ass?
He's thick, baby. I'm sorry. And then he goes up to Tunney. I hear that we lost one of our recruits. And then Tunney immediately goes, Klieg, through gritted teeth, he was going to be a weaver. And he goes, we lost a man in a fucking bog. Why are we even here? Yeah, he's just tight, right? And then Forrest goes, you did the best you could. Tunney goes, I know. And the forest begins. There's nothing more you could have whatever done. And then Tunney goes in, he cuts in, he says, he had some of my bloody gear in his pack. 8 good bottles of brandy. Do you know how much that could have made me? And then there's a pause. Now, Forrest goes, 8 bottles. Well, you're a piece of work, Corporal Tunney. 26 years in His Majesty's Army, but you can always find a way to surprise me. He goes, you know what? You can get up that rise and find out where in the pit of hell we are while I try and get the rest of the battalion across without sinking any more bottles. Maybe that'll take your mind off the depth of your loss. Oof. I don't buy that Tunney was upset about the 8 bottles of brandy. Not just. I think he was like, "Oh fuck, I could have made some money." About
As I found myself, like, I've actually this is a quote that I've been finding more often lately. I keep seeing I keep in real life too. I keep using the Costco quote I see no reason why a man cannot be both. So like,
No,
is he upset? Is he upset that the bottle's gone, or is he upset that he lost a recruit completely pointlessly? I don't see any reason why it can't be both.
Yeah.
And not to mention that it is mentioned that they're carrying his share of like load and stuff. So maybe if he hadn't been extra burdened down with all those bottles, he might have survived.
Yeah, that was a good point.
Maybe
I think
that's
about
something
that.
to do with it.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. And think about it. I mean, didn't they say? Isn't
a
it
minute.
like a thing?
Did he do it on purpose?
He knew he was going to be the Weaver.
Isn't it a thing where Tunney's lost a lot of recruits?
Yes, he has.
Yeah. This had to have had an effect. Think about it. That's probably why he's so like he's so
And detached.
not detached but resentful every time Forrest is like, "Hey, I got a new batch for you."
Yeah. Well, I think that's the pointless part. I don't think he was being. I think he was being honest when he said, "What's the point of this? Like, why are we over here?"
Right.
I think he was frustrated, and then he like composed himself, and he's like, "Fuck!" He had all those bottles of wine. God damn it.
Mhm. Yeah, and so like maybe it's a two-pronged feeling there, right? Like you said, he could be feeling like he lost, lost out on potential money, but also feeling guilt that maybe those bottles weighed him down.
Yep,
Absolutely.
I think so.
And so after Forrest turns around, tells him to go, check out the area. Because remember, as far as they know, they're just going to check out this bog. They don't know where the Northmen are. They don't know if the Northmen are even there. They don't know about the battle. And so Tunney, he goes, Yoke, Latherlister, Worth, get over here. I love the running joke where he gets Leader Legan's name wrong.
Well, it's funny because whenever he says it in his head, he says it right. So it's just when he says it out loud, he just does it to piss him off.
And then Yoke, I guess, is trying to tell Tunney that Worth isn't he's he's busy. And then Leader Legan cuts in, he goes, still squirting. And so
And I like how Yoke has the PTSD reaction where he's like stood up looking around like he's died or something. Like, where are you? Worth?
Yeah, and so then Tunney goes, all right, Leader Ligan, you stay here and you wait for him. Yoke, follow me and try not to die. So they stalk up and they're just walking. He's just like stomping, trying to kick dirt off his boots and kick wood out of his way. And Yoke is like, shouldn't we be keeping quiet? What if we run into the enemy? And then Tunney's all pissed. He goes, probably will run into the other bloody goddamn battalion. Just trotted over the goddamn bridge and up a path and got ahead of us all nice and dry. That'll make a funny picture, wouldn't it? And then he goes, some bloody big grins they're going to have when they see us. Some laugh they'll have. He gets to the edge of the trees, to see the faint outline of the distant hill. And then he goes, at least we're at the right bloody place. And he goes, to get wet, sore, hungry, and poor. That is General fucking Jallenhorn. I swear, a soldier expects to get shot on, but this. And then he gets, he gets to the point where he can see beyond the trees, and he sees that the ground slopes down with stumps and new saplings, and then sees a gentle river, and then earthy overhang, and then sees an irregular dry stone wall. I guess on the other side of the bank, and then he's above the wall. He sees spears like movement, right? And he goes, okay, so the battalion's here. He's just like, but why are they on the north side of the wall? I don't understand that. And then at some point, Yoke is like, what's going on? And he goes, shut the fuck up. And they drag him down to the bushes, and he pulls out his eyeglass, right? And he was able to look, and he sees helmets, smoke, more spears, and then he sees a man basically wading out into the stream with like a fishing rod, wild-haired, stripped to the waist, and definitely not a Union soldier. Only 200 strides from where they're at right now. And he was like, oh fuck. And Yoke was like, are those Northmen?
That's a lot of bloody Northmen.
And he's like, and we're right on their flank. And I like how Yoke asks him, he's like, where do they come from? And he goes, I guess the north, wouldn't you?
I love that's like the common thing, right? Like,
Like
how could they have gotten here? Well, from the north. They are Northmen. Where else would Northmen come?
And so he goes, somebody's gonna have to go back and let someone up let someone higher up know that there's a situation here. And then he's like, no, but they gotta know already. They must have like run into the Northmen themselves, right? He's like starting to panic, and he's like, who knows? Who knows what? Who knows, Yolk? It's a battle. Jesus Christ! He's like, that's. And he goes, as he says it, he realized it must be true that if there were Northmen behind that wall, then there must have been fighting, and so it was a battle, all right. Maybe the start of a big one. And with the way the Northmen are all cheering and smiling and chilling, he goes, if there was fighting, it's pretty clear that the Northmen won at least. And so then Sergeant Forrest, is crawling up towards Tunney. He's like, hey, there's Northmen on the other side of that stream. And he goes, yep, and they're fishing. The wall's crawling with them. And so Forrest tells Tunney that one of the guys had chimmied up a tree and was able to see horsemen at the old bridge. So Tunney goes, oh, fuck. If they took the bridge, if they cross it, we'll be cut off, right?
Yep.
So Forrest is like, yeah, we need to take a message back to General Jallenhorn. So pick someone out and stay out of bloody sight. And then Yolk goes, so somebody's got to go back through the bog. And then Tunney goes, yeah, unless you could fly there. And then Yolk goes, me? He goes, I can't do it, Corporal. Not after Clyde. I just can't do it.
I love the idea that he had like his connection with Kligga, even though Kligga was like they know each other for like a day.
Well, no, probably more than that. Maybe more than that, because remember they had to travel to the north. They had to take the ship.
No. That already happened. They met. We didn't backtrack. That was in the town before. They got more recruits from the boat. Oh, you mean because they all traveled together? Is that what you mean? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
From the Union to the north.
I see what you're saying. Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Sorry, Yolk.
It's all good. It's all good. But, Tunney just shrugs. He goes, somebody's got to go. If you made it across, you can make it back. Just stick to the grassy bits. And Yolk is panicking now. He grabs him. He's like, Corporal. And then he goes, he let his voice drop down quiet, the intimate, urgent little tone that Tunney always liked to hear, the tone in which deals were made. He goes, you told me if I ever needed anything. And he's like looking around to make sure they're not being observed. And he takes out a pewter flask and he gives it to Tunney. And Tunney goes, oh, he, opens it, smells it, closes it. He goes, gotcha. He nods and he goes, leather liquor. I need a volunteer.
He's like, oh, Yolk, you're learning.
And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate that?
I think this is a really good one. It's very shocking when Kligga just disappears into the mud, and it's
right there at the beginning.
Yeah, it's not a great way to go. And like you say, this is a couple of days after they start to make their way towards the battle. So I do feel for all those young recruits that have seen this happen, and they're just like, "What the fuck? Is that how I'm gonna die?" Oh my god! But yeah, at the same time, it's very funny, and I like to see
the rest of the chapter is very funny.
The rest of the chapter is very
not Kligga's death.
That's not funny at all. No, but I think I'm going to give this one a 5.
I'm going to double up again. I mean, I think a 5 and a knuckle. I mean, I think it not a 5 and a knuckle. Sorry, just a 5. I think that it's like it's not too long, and it's really funny. Other than the Kligga part. And I do like how we get some variation on what Tunney's mindset is and what he thinks. And we get kind of this interesting thing that they're kind of on the Northmen's flank, on Calder's and Skill's flank. So I wonder what that'll turn into. So I think 5 out of 9.
Actually, I think I'm going to agree with both of you. 5 out of 9 for me. It's just that peak. It's it is short. It is short, but it isn't like a page and a half short, right? And enough has happened where there's an external event, Kligga's death. And then we see internal characterization manifest itself in a different, I feel like we know that Tunney is taking Kligga's death difficult in a certain way. He's frustrated by it, but he airs his frustrations in the light of, he lost out on a financial potential gain, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's good. Then we see Yolk, Yolk and Lederligan and Worth saw their first death, and it wasn't even in action, right? So that's affecting them. Whereas you can die in any which way. I enjoyed this chapter. I really enjoyed it a lot. Absolutely. So I think that's a trifecta.
Oh yeah, 3 5s.
Yeah. All right. We'll move on to our next segment, which is Best Meme of the Week. Georgie boy, that's you. Take it away.
So, like I said earlier, it's the bloody diner again, because he's really bringing it out. He's posting one for every chapter, if you can believe it. So
Love
yeah,
the dedication.
it's very dedication indeed, and he's being the workhorse for this time around. I just hope somebody else would join in.
Join in, people.
And obviously, it can't be us because we can't post on Reddit anymore. But this is, to be honest, I didn't really get it as a joke the first time because it is just that bit in chapter 12 where it's like, do you ever get scared, Shivers? It's like, used to all the time. What changed? I got my eye burnt out of my head. Reckon I could change your outlook. Halves it. But it is literally just the joke from the book, so it is good, and it's obviously some effort.
I like how they
so it's good.
and I really like how the Bloody Niner had them far apart. It gets slowly close together. I don't know why, but it makes it really funny.
Yeah, actually, no, I could see Shivers doing that, just really slowly, like subliminally getting close.
Halves it. It was awesome.
Come here, baby. It helps.
And I also want to point out, Bremer Gorst posted the age-old fucking hilarious plague doctor strutting through the park with Gangsters Paradise playing in the background, and Glockter after Ardy asked him how he's been. Which is, I think I posted that something very similar about Glockter, and it was 2 or 3 years ago on a different account. But it was it's good to see that. Oh, that meme is still alive. It makes me laugh every time.
We love it. Love to see it. Love to see it. Yes, folks, please remember, join the Meming Every Chapter tournament, competition, and just have a go at it. It's fun. It's so much fun. But let's move on to our next chapter read through, the day's work. And we jump into the perspective of our boy Kerndon Craw, our AARP nominee applicant. He just wants to retire. He's done. He doesn't want to do this. His knees hurt. Fuck this. They're up on the north slope of the hill. He's walking up the north slope of the hill and looking at all the bodies scattered, right? The casualties, the dead, the wounded, all the different people, obviously in the aftermath of the battle. And a lot of them are Union, right? Because they got their shit wrecked, let's just say. And he noticed that there was a young Union lad seemed to have died on his face, ass in the air, staring sideways at Crawl with a look of baffled upset, like he was about to ask if someone could lay him out in a fashion more dignified. I feel like we know who this guy is.
Yeah, this guy and the guy that Calder sees as he's going down the hill, that's like got a spear sticking out of his back. I think both of those are POVs in the casualties chapter.
Yeah, I think the one with his ass up in the air, isn't that the guy with crank, lads, crank?
Oh, gone. Yeah, it might be. It might be.
Right.
I'm
gonna look, and when you guys are talking, I'm gonna look. But anyway, so apparently the Great Leveler was he had a great time today. There's heaps of bodies all tangled up in the grave pit embrace, and especially inside the heroes. Like that's where the real carnage is. It's just bodies after bodies after bodies. And I like how Warren sees Kerndon Crawl, goes, "Oh, there he is! If it's at last, I'd almost given up on waiting. Thought you might have decided to settle down one of those farms over there." And Kerndon obviously is like, "I wish I had." And the whole thing about, well, then who would show me my destinies? Oh, shut up. And I like how he goes, "Yep, stuck in the midst of it. A lot of fighting here. but didn't see even a scratch on him. Crawl says that he had never seen Weirin come out of a fight with a single mark, which is,
That's pretty impressive.
pretty impressive. And I know all the Weirin fanboys go, shut up. Anyway, and so he asked him. Oh no, I like how Weirin at one point does say, "Still, even when it's enemies, a sight like this makes you wonder whether war is really such a good thing after all."
Yeah, but you've been doing. Yeah, Carl, you say that, but you've been doing it for fucking 30 years.
Well, that's what Weirin says.
Oh.
Yeah, and then Crawl goes, "Are you joking?" And he goes, "I don't really know anymore." Weirin says that, and then Weirin is the one to tell him that Agric's dead, that he charged off right at the head and got killed in the circle. And he's just explaining to him how he died. He got stabbed right here under the ribs and everything. Crawl's like, "Does it fucking matter? Really? Does it matter?"
First, he was stabbed
like,
in the leg. Then,
under the ribs. No, and then Weirin goes, "Yeah, I guess not. You know, mud is mud." But he had the shadow over him since his brother died. You could see it on him. The boy wasn't going to last.
yeah.
And then he gives him the details on the rest. That Jolyon got a nick or two. Brack's leg is still bothering him, though he won't say it. Otherwise, they're all good. Wonderful thought we could try and bury Agric next to his brother. Great. Let's go get a hole dug before somebody else digs there. And, Crawl doesn't want to go say the words, but he's like, if you find me a spare shovel, I'll go and say the words as well. But before he takes a couple of steps, Call Shivers is in his way. And Shivers just goes, "Dow wants you."
That's all Shivers has been doing this whole book so far. He just turns up and he's like, "Dow wants you."
That's great. And then he goes, "Okay, great. Well, tell the guys I'll be back soon." And then he looks at Shivers and goes, "I'll be back soon, right?" And then Shivers just shrugs.
Right.
Now, when
It's like
he
that.
gets to...
It's like that Anakin Padme meme.
Oh, yeah. I'm coming back, right?
Right.
And then, so when he gets to Black Dow, who's like in the heroes as well, apparently he looks like he's happy as can be, eating an apple. And he's like, "Oh, Crawl, you old bastard. Where the hell did you get to?" And his face is all speckled with blood and shit. Crawl he's honest. He's like, "Listen, I was limping along in the back because I just, my knees, they're not what they used to be."
I love that Dow was eating an apple too. Like, that's notoriously like what bad guys do instead of,
they eat an apple.
They eat an apple. Yeah. So they like every single time Joe writes Black Dow, like, despite what we've all known about him and how his brain works in such an interesting way, he either on purpose, which I think it is, always tries to make him be perceived as the bad guy to other people. It's every single time. He's got the wolf's grin, and he's written the same way too. He's eating an apple. He's covered in blood. He acts like he's not bothered. I just it adds to his complexity so much, both in the writing and what Black Dow wants people to see. It's clever. I really like it.
Mm-hmm. And very true. And you'll see this in a little bit in a second. Crawl tells him that he'll go wherever Dow tells him to go, but this charging business is a young man's game. And Dow goes, "Well, I managed to keep up." And Crawl goes, "Well, not everyone has your taste for blood." And then Dow says, "It's been the making of me." But he goes, "But don't reckon I've done a better day's work than this, though." And then, so I feel like that there was something there. I could be, reading too much into it, obviously, because it's what I do sometimes. But when he says it's the making of me, I think it's like he doesn't have the taste for blood. It's just what he has to do.
Yes, it's always been. He never wanted the throne. He just felt like he that's what he had to do because who else could do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so Dow kind of like takes him to the spot where Crawl had stood when they first saw the Union come, right? And things had changed a lot since he was last there. And just bodies and bodies and bodies and digging pits and, stakes and everything. It's all business over there. And then Dow calls Shivers over. And he tells Shivers like that. He hears that they got a pretty nice prisoner down in Ostrong, a Union officer or something like that. Bring him up here, see if we can prick anything out of him worth hearing. Let's remember that choice of words there. And Shivers just says, right. He nods and he just walks off. And Dow says to Craw about Shivers, he goes, some men you just have to keep busy. And we have to wait till like obviously the end of the book. But there are some things here that we got to talk about eventually.
We'll get back to that.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. We'll get back to that. Anyway, so then Dow is like, yeah, we pushed them back to the river all across the line. Rishi got over the fence and kicked the Union out of Ostrong. Scales got the old bridge. Golden drove this lot clean across the shallows. Now, he got stopped there, but I'd worry if I started getting everything my way. Yeah. And he winked at him. And then Crawl was wondering if he was about to get stabbed in the back. And then Dow says, I guess folk won't be carping that I ain't the fighter they thought I was, eh? And then Crawl's like, I guess not. Okay, is that it? He goes, Shivers said you needed me for something? And then Dow goes, what, can a pair of old fighters just have a chat after a battle? And this surprised Crawl much more than a knife in the neck would have, you know?
It's so interesting that he says that too, because it means that Dow, like he's not, like he really is just like, hey, like why does it have to be all about business? Like, bro,
yeah,
come on, bro. Like
he's just trying to be friendly.
Yeah.
And then he goes, Crawl goes, yo, I reckon they can. I just didn't reckon that you'd be one of them. And then Dow even seemed to think about that for a moment, and he goes, neither did I. I guess we're both surprised. And then, which I want to talk about in a second, but he goes, and then Dow tells him that we're going to let the Union come to us tomorrow. We'll spare your old legs. It's like, great. And then Crawl goes, what, you think they're going to come on after all this? And Dow smiles even more than before. He goes, listen, we gave Jallenhorn a hell of a beating, but half his men never even got across the river. And that's only one division out of 3. Mitterick's just bringing up his men over there to Adwine, fresh and ready. Meet on the other side, he hears. There's still heaps more work. Don't worry about that. And he's smiling. He goes, we're just getting started. And that's the end of that chapter.
I think that the term that Blacked Out always uses is work when he talks about killing. Like, it goes to your point that you said, like, it's something that needs to be done. It's a job. But everyone else thinks he's being cold, but it's how he disassociates. So he feels like that way he can actually do what he needs to do. Right.
Because he has to maintain that reputation.
It's both because he has to maintain the reputation, but it's also how he associates it in his brain to be like, you know, he's not being cold to be cold. It's work to be done. It's literally work to be done. It's so interesting.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about this. George, what do you think about the chapter?
Yeah, it's good to see Dow having a bit of a I don't know, it's a bit weird, isn't it, that Crawl seems to think he's just going to get killed at any second. like you said, Harrison, like Dow is written as if he is the bad guy, like the ultimate bad guy, when we know that he's not really, you know. He's a bit of an evil bastard sometimes, but not without cause, you know.
Yeah.
Right, you know, I guess circumstances and everything. And Crawl, like, after the first time they, like, ran into each other, and Dow goes, hey, I'm really sorry about this. And then he has to, like, yell, and then Crawl's like, oh, yeah, fire away, chief. Like, Crawl, at this point, should not be worried about getting killed by Dow.
Yeah, but Crawl can't really see. Crawl has such a hard time seeing past his own, like, perception. Like, he can't put himself in other people's shoes. So, it makes sense.
I'd say that as well, yeah. Like, Crawl is so set in his ways, and because he always wants to do the right thing or whatever, that it's like everything is against him, like even down to his own dozen who will argue with him, and it's just him just there like, fuck's sake, I've got to do everything myself. But yeah, I'd say I'd give this one a 4 overall.
Give this one a 4?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I give this one a 6 because I really like the Blacked Out characterization in this chapter. But there's not much else other than that. I'm really feeling that Blacked Out.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4 and a knuckle due to the it's short, but because of the more Blacked Out. I will always take more Blacked Out, and I think one of the big things of him calling Crawl over and just chatting with him is that he misses having friends. He misses someone like the Dog Man,
Or Grim.
even Grim,
Yeah.
right? Three Trees, Toll, right? He can't have these conversations with Splitfoot or Golden or Tenway.
Because they're suck ups.
Yeah, well, they're suck ups, and they're maybe the closest one is Ricci, maybe, but I don't even no, not really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think he's just lonely,
Yeah, he is lonely.
blacked out. God damn it. Anyway, we'll move on to character spot. Who are we highlighting today, boys? Who else?
Today we honor Kligger. We did not know his last name. He wanted to be a weaver, perhaps the weaver.
Was that Celine Dion's "I Will Go On"? You piece of shit.
We salute you, Kligger. May you rest in the mud.
George, you want to say anything about Kligger?
I'm just picturing that bit from Titanic when Jack sinks into the water. It's just mud.
It's not funny, guys. It said not funny.
I mean, the guy, he's one of the only ones that. I mean, Yoke probably committed a crime, and Lederlingen signed up, and Worth was something I can't remember. But Kligger was literally sold into this. He didn't have a fucking choice. He didn't want to be there.
Lederlinger volunteered.
Lederlingen volunteered. That was it. But no, Kligger wasn't either one that was gonna. But he was gonna be a weaver, and then his apprentice.
Is the boss or whatever? It was like, oh, take him.
Yeah, just sold him to the army instead. It's fine.
Yeah, which I don't know, like how you can sell an apprentice unless he's a slave. So that's weird.
Well, no, I don't think he actually sells him though, right? It's more like I don't want him anymore. You should like the army was like, we're looking for recruits, and he's like, go, and then he's so like passive. He just was like,
fine.
Okay. Yeah, but that's not a good way to go. And it's like the first chapter is called "Discretion is a Better Part of Valor." You really should have thought about going back for your shoe if the shoe came off immediately. Like that's a bit
right.
Maybe
yeah.
Yeah, it's like you've already encountered a load of resistance, so going back into the bog to get it is probably not a good idea. So
Yeah,
maybe I don't know, maybe it's a bit of natural selection. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Absolutely. You're right, because remember, Tiny said that he had strayed from the rushes, at least from the grassy bits.
Yeah.
So he's already out there like a goofball. And the minute he goes out there, his boot comes off. Kligger, you goofy, sweet soul.
You goofy motherfucker. It's a shame. It is a shame, but it's probably your fault.
Totally his fault. Although probably didn't help. He might have been weighed down by 8 bottles of brandy.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty heavy,
8 bottles of brandy, that'll get you, yeah?
Yeah, but apart from that, we don't get to know him for long. We know that he's well,
He's going to be a weaver.
He was going to be a weaver. We didn't actually get to see him doing any of his duties or anything like that. So we don't know if he was a good soldier or if, fuck it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just know that he was a loyal recruit to Tunny. That's all. He was a nice little private that could have had a nice life if he just would have listened. But he didn't. Now he's in a bog. Now he's fertilizer for worms.
Yep. Poor Kligger.
Oh God, that is terrifying. That is scary.
There is going to be if he's in a bog, he's going to be perfectly preserved, like in 1,000 years. The Union archaeologists.
You're right.
And it's just going to be a perfectly preserved.
Well, wait a minute. That's because you're thinking of like the tar pits. I don't think mud, because that's what a bog is.
A bog. You get bog fossils and shit all over.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe in time when the Northmen advance their civilization and they turn that bog into a mall, they'll find Kligger's.
Oh dear.
Oh boy. Well, that's our character spot. Rest in peace, Kligger. And so we'll move on. So now we move on to our final chapter read through, The Defeated. Ahem. we are going to be reading a letter. We are going to be reading a letter. You know the drill, folks. Your August Majesty, I regret to inform you that today your army and interest in the North suffered a most serious reverse. The foremost elements of General Jallenhorm's division reached the town of Osrung this morning and took up a powerful position on a hill surmounted by a ring of ancient stones called the Heroes. Reinforcements were held up on the bad roads, however, and before they could move across the river, the Northmen attacked in great numbers. Although they fought with the greatest courage, the 6th and Rostad regiments were overwhelmed. The standard of the 6th was lost. Casualties may well be close to 1,000 dead, perhaps the same number of wounded, and many more in the hands of the enemy. It was only by a valiant action of your Majesty's 1st Cavalry that further disaster was averted. The Northmen are now well entrenched around the Heroes. One can see the lights of their campfire on the slopes. One can almost hear their singing when the wind shifts northerly. But we yet hold the ground south of the river, and the divisions of General Mitterick on the western flank and Lord Governor Meade on the eastern have begun to arrive and are preparing to attack at first light. Tomorrow, the Northmen will not be singing. I remain your Majesty's most faithful and unworthy servant, Bremer Dangors, Royal Observer of the Northern War.
Well done.
That took every bit of
You got through it without pausing. That was good.
That was good job.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
You got so like raspy by the end. You're like,
if you ever saw the original animated Little Mermaid, that part when they're singing Keith the girl and the bird at the end is like quack, 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 quack.
What's wrong?
Oh my God, I was fucking dying. Anyway, so that folks, that was Bremer Dangor's letter to the king, apprising him of deeds of what happened just now. And he is going. He is in. Is he in the town? Is he in Adwin? He is, right?
I think so.
Yeah. He's walking through the village. Yeah, there he is, and he's noticing that everyone's like terrified now. Everyone's terrified. Even like, if a wagon might have been turned over on the side on the road to the Heroes, it would have been just like, oh, this is annoying. Now a wagon turned on the side, it causes panic or like that fear, right? Because they just lost that battle. And he notices that progress to move through the village has been stalled by several enormous wagons, each drawn by a team of 8 horses. That's some heavy shit that's in those wagons. If each one needs to be drawn by 8 horses, I wonder what that could be.
Who knows?
and an officer is yelling at an old man on the seat of the foremost one, and this guy, he replies and he says, "I am Sorazin, Adeptus Chemical of the University of Adwa."
My brother.
And he's waving a document in this guy's face, and he's like, "This equipment must be allowed through by order of Lord Byers." And Gorsh just leaves them alone. But we saw Sorazin in the first trilogy, right? We remember him. He was the chemical guy with the...
Yeah, he was one of the main 3, and he was definitely there at the end when Salt's trying to do his fucking summoning or whatever.
Yeah. And, he's looking past... Gorsh keeps walking past him. Sees that there's a northern woman standing in the street with 3 children. She's just staring at a handful of coins. So it looks like she got turned out of her house, right? And was paid for it. And, Gorsh tells himself, will I be a gentleman, a dashing hero, and offer my tent while I sleep outside in the rain? And he just walks past her in silence. And then he gets to, I guess more buildings in the village. And he finds a surgeon. And he asks him, like, where is General Jallenhorm? And so he points down that way, and he hears his voice. Gorst hears Jallenhorm's voice, and its tone was different, even though it's the same voice that had been blathering orders for the last few days. And Jallenhorm is basically, saying things like, lay them down here, lay them here, clear a space. You, bring bandages. And he's kneeling in the mud, clasping the hand of a man on a stretcher. And he finally got away from his huge staff, right? If they're not dead on the hill. And he's telling this guy and everybody else, don't worry, you're going to have the best of care. Tells them that you're a hero, you're all heroes. You did everything that could have been asked. Mine was the fault. Mine were the mistakes. Mine is the guilt. And I like how Gorst internally says, defeat, it seems, brings out the best in some men.
Mm.
And we love this.
It's good to see Jallenhorm. He's taking the credit, isn't he? He's not just going, oh, well, it was because of this and because of that. Or as he was in the last one where he's not trying to micromanage, he kind of takes a step back here and says, well, I could have done better and maybe I should step down.
Yeah. And Gorst calls his name and he looks up, and Gorst notes that his face looks very old for a man so young. He tells him that Marshal Croy is here, and the general goes, like, you can just tell he goes, fuck. He goes, I like this bit. He goes, all right, how do I look? Because he's like adjusting his belt and uniform and everything. And Gorst is about to say something, but then Jallenhorm cuts him off. He goes, don't bother to humor me. I look defeated. And Gorst internally notes, true. Please don't deny it. I didn't. That's what I am. It is.
You sassy fucker.
Yeah. Gorst here is a little bit of a cunt, You'll see this in a minute, where he as they're walking, Jallenhorm thanks Gorst, that charge of his saved the division. And Gorst goes, perhaps it will have also saved my career. Your division can all drown if I could be the king's first guard again. That's internally. What he says is, my motives were not selfless. So he's like honest here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then Jallenhorn says, like, whose are, right? It's the results that go down in history are reasons that they're in smoke. And the fact is I nearly destroyed my division. The one the king had most foolishly lent me. I tried to turn it down, And he goes, and this is a part again where Gorst is like replying to him in his head. He goes, seems you didn't try hard enough. And then Jallenhorn goes, but you know the king all too well. He has romantic notions about his old friends. He has romantic notions about everything. No doubt I will be laughed at when I return home. Humiliated, shunned. Welcome to my life. And Jallenhorn says, probably I deserve it. Gorst internally goes, probably you do. I don't. Like, this makes me want to slap the shit out of Gorst, right?
Yeah, he's being a little bastard, isn't he?
Yeah.
This does really remind me of Glockner's inner monologues more than any other character, though. I do find it interesting that, he does have reason to just shut the fuck up and not say anything.
Yeah, and it's funny. I guess the parallel there, Glockner is someone that's physically not capable, right? He's, disabled, and Gorst is a physical specimen with a high-pitched voice.
It's socially not acceptable.
Not capable, right? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah. And then, although I will say that when Gorst turns to look at Jallenhorm and he just sees the picture of dejection, he knows what that's like, and he feels like a wave of sympathy, and he puts a hand on his shoulder, and he tells him, you did what you could. You should not blame yourself. You must not blame yourself. And I like how, as they walk, and Jallenhorm, he says it softly, and there's no answer. He says it out to the rain, but he goes, who should I blame then? Who? And I'm like, oh, Jallenhorm, poor man. They get to Lord Marshal Croy, who's on his horsey, and he's surveying the scene. And within his sight, discipline is evident, but obviously Jallenhorm's division is not so disciplined. It's chaos, right? They're reeling from the defeat. And Jallenhorm goes up to Lord Marshal Croy, and Lord Marshal, he looks at it and goes, I understand there was an engagement. And Jallenhorm, to his credit, doesn't equivocate or anything like that. He's very yep, the Northmen came in very great numbers, very great and very quickly. It was a well-coordinated assault. They feinted for Ostrong, and I had sent a regiment to reinforce the town. I went to find more, but by that time, it was too late to do anything but to try to keep them on the far side of the river. And Corey goes, okay, well, what's the condition of your division? And Jallenhorn is like, all right. 2 of my 5 regiments of foot were held up on the bad roads and haven't seen action. The 13th were holding Ostrong and were able to withdraw in good order when the Northmen breached the gate. Some casualties, and he's reciting it monotonously. And the majority of the Rostad regiment, some 9 companies, I believe, were caught in the open and routed. The 6th were holding the hill when the Northmen attacked. They were comprehensively ridden down in the fields. The 6th has ceased to exist.
Damn.
And then, and Croy asks him, he's like, what about Colonel Wetterland? And he goes, presumed among the dead on the far side of the river. There are very many dead there, very many wounded we cannot reach. You can hear them crying for water. They always want water for some reason, and he kind of just like splutters some like laughter nervously. He's just, and he's like, I thought they might want spirits or something. Like he's just like, he's not losing it, but he's just like,
he's trying to like make it more comfortable for himself, like trying to bring back that camaraderie that he used to have with the boys,
Yeah.
And, he just doesn't know what to do, and so Croy is quiet, and so's Gorst, and so Jallenhorn keeps going. He goes, 1 regiment of cavalry took losses near the old bridge and withdrew, but held the south bank. The first is split into 1 battalion, made their way through the marshes to a position in the woods on our left flank. So that could be useful, right? That could be useful. And what about the other part of that 1st battalion? Is it the 1st regiment? I'm sorry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, well, the other part fought valiantly along Colonel Gorst in the shallows and turned back the enemy at great cost on both sides. Our one truly successful action of the day. So Jallenhorn really hypes up Gorst and highlights his actions to save the day. Mm-hmm. And Croy goes, more heroics, huh? And he goes, some action, sir. No heroics. And then Jallenhorn cuts in and he goes, I was mindful of the urgency. You wrote to me of some urgency. And Corey's like, yep, I did. And he was mindful that the king wished for quick results. And so he seized the chance to get at the enemy, but he seized it much too ardently, he says. He made a terrible mistake, a most terrible mistake, and he alone shall bear the full responsibility. And Croy says, no. Croy says, you share it with me and with others, the roads, the nature of the battlefield, the undue haste. And, Jallenhorn still goes, nonetheless, I failed, and he tries to resign. He draws a sword and offers it up to Croy. He says, I humbly request that I be removed from command. And Croy goes, the king would not hear of it, and neither will I.
It's interesting that Croy is like that, too. You wouldn't think he would be, but he is. He's like, no, this is my responsibility. I messed up. And so I thought that was pretty cool. I like that.
This Croy is an evidently different Croy than what we saw from before they're hanged and from the majority of the Last Argument of Kings. We did start to see this Croy at the end of the Last Argument of Kings.
He's definitely he's a very, very good military leader. Like he doesn't chew out Jallenhorn here for making a mistake. He's like, well, no, like I'm under the same conditions as well. Baez has told me that we have to get a fucking move on. So
and let's not forget that there's a reason that his men are so disciplined, but they follow him devoutly, not devoutly, but his staff are very much like him. They think like him, right? And his division's always in order. So that means his men are of the same mind. So when we saw him before they're hanged in the majority of Last Argument of Kings, we only saw the petulant side of the politicking, right?
Yeah.
The jostling for position, currying favor. But that's like with, higher ups or maybe people of his same social standing. But for the men, you could say on the lower ladders or lower scales of the political fucking structure or the military structure, he's actually someone that people look up to him. So that means he treats the people that are below him fairly, I would say.
Yes, I think so too.
So I think we're only seeing this side of Croy. I'm not sure if he's so much has changed, but maybe he has. Anyway, Jallenhorn says that he should have scouted the trees more thoroughly, and Croy's like, yeah, look, you should have, but your orders were to push north and find the enemy. You found the enemy. This is a war. Mistakes happen, and when they do, the stakes are high. But we're not finished. We barely even begun. You're going to spend tonight and tomorrow behind the shallows where Colonel Gorse fought his unheroic action.
Oh.
Regrouping in the center, re-equipping your division, looking to the welfare of the wounded, restoring morale, and at this point he goes, imposing discipline.
Yes.
I like
This
this.
should be.
Yeah, and then Croy says that he's going to be making his headquarters on the slopes of Black Fell, where there should be a good view of the battlefield. Defeat is always painful, but he has a feeling that he's going to get another chance to be involved in this particular battle. And Jallenhorn, he salutes and everything. He's like, my division will be ready for action the day after tomorrow. You may depend on it. And he goes, good. And so Croy, he rides away. And Gorse, he walks away too. And he looks back, though, because he knows that Jallenhorn was frozen in salute. And he's still standing there, the Jallenhorn, hunched over as the rain grows heavier in the torchlight. And he's just by himself. And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, what do you rate that?
I really like this one. I like the Gorse chapters probably the most out of any of in the book. Just because, like I said earlier, it reminds me the most of Glockter, especially his inner monologues and his like self-loathing. But also loathing of everybody else as well. And that is somehow turns out very, very entertaining. I like to see Jallenhorn kind of being brought low, and I say that I like to see it as a character moment. It's good to see this character being humbled, and to see how that will affect going forward. And also, like you said, Croy becoming more mature and a better leader. So I think I'm going to give this one a 6 to the knuckle.
Okay, Harrison?
Yeah, I mean, I really like that Jallenhorn is brought low, but it also is like he also was kind of already feeling that. And it's interesting that he obviously, like, whenever he got this position and stuff, he's obviously not good at it. And it seems to be like he knows that. He's got imposter syndrome. And I like that, that's a whole other aspect of this character that is highlighted, but he's not like punished for it because Troy understands what's going on. He says, "Get your shit together, and you're not done yet." And I take responsibility too because he's the one overall in command. It's very, very mature, and it's something that we have not really seen from any Union commanders other than West. But even then, West we got to see him so minimal, as the Lord Marshal. So this has been very, it's very like humbling moment. But mostly though, I will say this is a kind of a chapter where they are again reassessing the battle and everything. So I think I'm going to give it a 5 and a knuckle.
I'm going to give it a 6 and a knuckle. I really enjoyed this chapter. Just the characterization of Jallenhorn in this sense, and the characterization of Croy. We have vacillating moments of Gorse being a fucking petulant little cunt, and then him being a sympathetic, understanding kind of guy, feeling bad, for Jallenhorn. And obviously the Union Army is in disarray and dismay, but they're gonna come back, folks. They're gonna be okay.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. The Empire will strike back.
Yeah. So this is a short chapter as well, but I mean not as short, and I think there was enough characterization in there for me to give it a 6. So that's what I'm gonna do. Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom.
That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot.
Join us next week as we cover fair treatment and tactics.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media and email us with any questions you might have at circleoftheworldpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Please make sure to rate and review us. Thank you all again for listening.
We're just getting started.